Hello. It's exciting. In the round. You guys got really great seats, didn't you? Back there. Well, hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. I also want to point out, Eleanor, you're the one journalist that everyone was afraid of getting a text message from. You always knew the information at Fox before anyone else, and we were always so afraid of getting a message that she knew something that we weren't allowed to report. So she was one of the good ones.
One of the good ones.
I have a very similar background to Eleanor. I also left my job in mainstream media. I'm a recovering TV MSM reporter, and I'm so grateful that Bitcoin gave me the opportunity to become an entrepreneur and build my own media platform. And I felt a lot of the frustration that Eleanor probably did, where I would try to pitch stories. And when they allowed me to do them every now and then, I actually did my first Bitcoin story in 2017 about a Bitcoin ATM in Sacramento, but I always had to present Bitcoin as, oh, here's this person who says some good things about it, and here's this person who says the worst things possible about it. You guys decide. And I felt like I was doing a little bit of injustice to Bitcoin because I was starting to understand it so much more as the years went by, and I felt like I wasn't able to cover it with the truth and conviction that I had developed. And at the same time, as many of you probably have noticed with news, our media institutions have lost a lot of trust. I, as a reporter, was also feeling like I wasn't able to cover stories in a way that reflected genuine curiosity and trying to determine the truth. I felt like I had to cover them a certain way. And that was very, very frustrating to me. And I felt a level of cognitive dissonance, and I was starting to get disillusioned. And that's what led me ultimately to making the decision and taking a big risk. I had no idea that I could build my own media platform, but I had to do it because something in my gut and in my heart said that Bitcoin is the truth. I need to pursue this and educate the masses, including all these people in the media, as opposed to just staying in this very stable job, earning my fiat salary, and reporting on stories that I felt weren't covering the full picture in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a television coast. Is that it? All right. Thank you guys so much. It's been great.
Come back. Okay. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay, so now I get to introduce myself. So thank you so much for that, TJ. Once again, hi, my name is Mike Germano. I'm over at Pubkey. I think I saw a couple of you there last night, the ones who look a little tired. Excellent. And for everyone who's coming tonight, thank you very much. We are a true Bitcoin treasury company. We take literally your money and your Bitcoin, and we give you a hot dog, and we give you a beer, and we have our small little Bitcoin treasury. So we do it the old-fashioned way by getting you drunk and making sure you have a good time. So thank you so much for building up our humble stacks. Look, I think one of the reasons why I'm on this panel is having the experience that I did in media, and really what I want to try to say to everyone here, which I think is going to be important, is that the truth is, if this is a treasury event, a lot of you are new faces I've never seen before. I've been around, right? That's great. You're building out. You're doing some good stuff. Don't worry about that. I love the storage company. That's an awesome thing. There's a lot of new faces here. You're experts at managing the financial markets, finding, as Michael Saylor said, this untapped capital that you're going to bring to the market in whatever region you are. That's fascinating. You can tell that story. The media is going to want to hear that story from you. But the truth is, the reason why the media has gotten Bitcoin all wrong is because way before you were here, before anyone was here, when Bitcoin launched, there was no PR department, there was no CEO. Traditional media had no idea how to report on this. If you wonder why they failed at doing it, they didn't know who to call. We weren't set up in their traditional structure, and even worse, Bitcoin was launched didn't need the media company. They felt rejected. So when media companies for all this time have said, well, we think Bitcoin's a scam or this isn't going to happen, they can't admit that they're wrong. They can't admit that they were wrong at 2,000, at 4,000, at 8,000, at 642,000. They cannot admit that they're wrong. They still can't admit, they're still trying to tell you to get your 17th COVID booster on your cat, right? So they can't admit that they're wrong. What makes you think they're going to admit that they're wrong on Bitcoin? And even worse, if they do that, they have to tell all their readers and viewers, thank you for trusting us. We lost you a fortune. They will not do that. Now, that's bad for Bitcoin. Why is that good for all of you? Because what Michael Saylor did, really, was that he put a CEO, a name and a face on something and on a company that was relatively new. Just like all of your companies coming out new, you can follow the structure. You get to talk to the regular press about what you're doing. You get to have the ICO. You get to be there ringing the bell. You follow their structure. Your job is to convince people that your management team works, that your business works, right? That this is the best form of capital, that how you're doing it, to have trust in you. I will say, my advice is you're going to fail probably on trying to convince people that what the value of Bitcoin is. That's not your job. Your job is to tell them why your treasury company works. Now, I would say that the job then of everyone else from the Bitcoin community is how do we keep saying Bitcoin is something valuable? That's our job to try to put out there and make everyone realize and believe it. And the truth is the Bitcoiners might do a better job than you. I know we're not supposed to say that, right? But once again, talk all day about why your instruments make sense. That's where you're going to work. And, I just wanted to maybe share. I know some people here don't like Bitcoiners that hold on to their own Bitcoin, and I think said we were sniveling or something. But the key was, if the whole world, as everyone said, changed in November of 2024, when Trump got elected, and you can tell it was a pro-Trump panel cabinet, was because it was the Bitcoin holders who built up a huge community, right? And were a voting base that convinced Trump to actually support Bitcoin. There was no treasury company that convinced Trump to go pro-Bitcoin. So we both need each other very much. It's not just about buying this or buying that. And once again, want to talk about how sometimes it's difficult dealing with the media, and the best ways to do that. So Eleanor, welcome to the stage. Happy to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome.
Little change in regularly scheduled programming here, and I got all ready and I put my sneakers on, but here we are. I'm back. Yeah.
You know what I think would be important from your angle?
Yes.
Once again, I truly do mean this. When you were over at Fox, you were one of the few reporters that actually were doing proper reporting on the space. And it was very rare for us. And I'm not saying we were afraid to talk to you, but we knew you knew information. And there's a huge investment. A lot of people think making Bitcoin content is easy. Well, half these companies that make Bitcoin content, they're going to be promoting their exchange, or they're promoting their new stock, right? To be, what Fox News was unique. They did have some coverage, but I think talk a little bit more about how reporters want to talk to these people, where you think the value are for, I think, everyone here to better understand how to talk to a traditional reporter.
Yeah. I think with, a company like Fox or a company like CNBC and Bloomberg, the content, we were always trying to meet you guys sort of halfway, right? I think for a lot of us, there was the meeting you guys at the, I guess jumping the Rubicon. It was like the level of understanding, I think, was not always there with a lot of us. I was very fortunate enough, and Natalie knows, Charlie Gasparino was my mentor, my boss at Fox Business. And, we kind of jumped into doing this together. I came at it from a very sort of, I wouldn't say easy way in. I'm not a very technical person. The way I kind of came at it was through the regulatory and the policy standpoint. So it was the end of 2021, we started covering the SEC versus Ripple case. And as you guys know, that was sort of the one of the first major companies to get sued by the SEC. It was kind of right before Gary Gensler came in, and then he started suing, everybody and their mother. And that sort of became the story. And that's really how I got into my own crypto reporting. But, from the technical side of things, I think that really is a struggle with traditional, financial reporters. I think it's gotten a lot better now. And I think kudos to you guys for really making it, understandable to a lot of us. But there's also the hard work involved. I do pride myself on having a lot of conversations. I actually pick up the phone and I talk to people. I think, that is an art that's unfortunately been lost, I think, to some of these, maybe younger reporters who have kind of grown up, in the digital age, right? Just sending a text message. But I think, actually meeting in person, actually picking up the phone and actually, making the effort to go and learn something, what is crypto? What is Bitcoin? How does it work? And actually making that effort to make those connections. I pride myself on my sources and my connections. So, for me, that's how I got the job done. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today. But, I appreciate the kind words.
I think one of the biggest problems is that many journalists have something in common with their viewers, which is that they don't have any education in different types of economics, in Austrian economics, in the history of money. And that's something I really had to teach myself. And what we do get when we go to school for journalism, and I got 2 degrees in journalism. Why I did that, I don't know. But I studied a lot of like multimedia production and the technical side and storytelling, how to put together a compelling story, which does help. I mean, I think one of the things we need most in Bitcoin is more effective storytellers, especially to the masses, breaking it down in a simple way and in a way that sort of draws on our heartstrings. Because what type of stories do we like to watch and listen to, right? We like to watch the ones that have some action, that are riveting, that there's some drama, there's a conflict, but then there's maybe a resolution, maybe there's something to look forward to. And personally, I mean, I love happy endings. So I think the ultimate happy ending is something like Bitcoin that empowers the individual. And I think in terms of the story with regard to where we are in human history and in our current society, we are really at an inflection point. I mean, I've never imagined growing up in a society that's gotten this divided. Bridging the gap between left and right has felt so much more difficult every single year. And I shared recently in some of my talks and podcasts that the only thing that has given me hope is Bitcoin. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't found it. Maybe I would be a huge gold bug, or maybe I would totally be a doomer that thinks this is all just going to, HE double hockey sticks in a handbasket, because it's just we've pulled apart so much and the average person feels left behind. Wall Street's doing better than ever. The rich are doing great, and the middle class has been completely destroyed. And so it's not surprising, I think, that they're pulling toward politics, demanding, to put someone in office that's going to redistribute the wealth or hand something to them and make them feel like they're going to be empowered. But we know that they're not, because we know that they have to print. But the average person is not empowered with that knowledge. And so it's incumbent upon us to share that story, share it simply, and tell them why not only the problem is rooted in money, but the solution really is Bitcoin.
Yeah. And look, I know this sounds silly to think working at a Bitcoin bar is important, but I'll tell you why it's important. It's important because it's an actual place, right? We're all here because we want to be connected. You're all believe in Bitcoin. Sometimes you feel a little crazy. We have people come into the bar that flew in yesterday from like Poland, and we had someone from Georgia, and everyone's saying, hey, I just don't want to feel alone. I want to see that there's other people I can look in the eye, talk to, and say, hey, you believe in this too? That physical thing is important. Number 2, it's actually about spending Bitcoin. It's using Bitcoin. Now, I know we can't talk about spending Bitcoin here. I know we shouldn't talk about actually using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, but we do that at Pubkey. President Trump, he did it. He bought some crypto burgers. I yelled at him and I said it was a Bitcoin burger. Secret Service almost tackled me, but I've learned my lesson. But hopefully he did too. But the key was, it's a place where actually what we see, which I think is exciting for me, when you talk about thinking we're going to HE double hockey sticks, which is very Midwestern of you. As a New Yorker, I would use different words. But for a lot of people, you'll see the reason why they're so passionate about Bitcoin is this is kind of a political party, right? I mean, it looks like half a cult. I see people out here with orange ties. It feels like the Book of Mormon version or the Book of Michael Saylor or whatever you guys are doing. So, they call us a cult. I'm just happy you now have a uniform. But I would say that the nice thing about the bar is it brings people together. We're there. We see parents come in and bring their kids, and they're like, see, this is real. Like, this is real. And then we see like kids bring their parents and be like, see, I told you this is like real. You can do stuff with it. You can buy, right? And so that's important to have a physical location. And obviously we had to have it here in New York because we had to fight the New York Bit license. It's a home for everyone. I mean, this is a home. And the reason why we made it a dive bar was because that's approachable. That's the truth. It needs to be approachable. That's the beautiful thing about this asset. I think what Michael Saylor did say was like, it's the only asset for the rich and the poor, right? And that is absolutely exciting. I never thought of it that way, but when you come into a dive bar, and we're a luxury dive bar, so our food's really good, bathrooms are clean, right? But tallow, yeah, we cook in tallow before it was cool. And so I think it's important because it brings everyone together. It's a great place to make you feel welcome, right? And the worst kept secret is that we're opening our DC location soon, which is going to be massive and a great place. And it wasn't just because it's in DC, it's because that's a place where people need to have conversations the most, right? Bitcoin can bring that conversation. I'm sure we could probably all disagree politically, but the point is we all believe in Bitcoin, and that all makes us feel like we're rooting for the same team. So when you do see people who get excited and passionate about Bitcoin, might get upset about how you're doing Bitcoin financially. It's because they're so passionate about what this asset has brought to their life. So it's not just financial. I know this room wants to see just number go up, but for a lot of people, it's personal here. And that's what takes good storytelling. That's why people take a lot of pride in it. And that's why people might fight you when you tell them what you're doing.
I have a question for both of you, actually. I feel like in the early days when Trump was still trying to, like, he was, getting in super into crypto, right? It was kind of like the campaign season when we had him come to Nashville for Bitcoin 2024. And then we obviously had the election win. And then the inauguration, he was doing all these things and making all these promises and following through on the promises too. But then, I feel like now it's kind of died down maybe a little bit just because, we've passed the Genius Act and we're working towards clarity. But I feel like the traditional media in the beginning was very interested. They were kind of sitting up and taking notice. And you guys must have been getting a lot of questions from reporters and a lot of coverage, right? From those outlets like Fox and CNBC and Bloomberg. It's died down to an extent. Do you expect that to continue on that trajectory? Do you think the crypto hype or maybe the interest has died down for good from trad media? Are they just not interested? Is it always going to be that way? What's your take?
No, real quick. I think I have some scary stories to share with that. Is Pubkey asked every single politician if they wanted to come. Just like when I was at Bitcoin Magazine, we asked Trump, we asked every candidate, right? Trump said yes, others didn't, especially at Pubkey. Other people might have raised money. We charged Trump $952. So we didn't raise him any money, we actually charged him. We still have those sats, by the way. So the important thing is mainstream media then want to say, you're a Republican outlet. And every time they report on us, well, this is where Donald Trump, yes, obviously that was big, but they're still caring about this story. We're fielding reports from a lot of traditional left-leaning media publications that are, I will be honest, are looking into what the Trump family is doing. They're asking questions. They look at this as it didn't help the narrative of like Bitcoin's a scam, right? And the Trump family is big time into this. They just went public with one of their things. Traditional media wants to pin something on there, so I think it's actually, unfortunately, the negative to Trump winning is that his family getting involved in it has put a major spotlight on it, right? So the positive being is we're all here because regulations dropped, right? And we can actually be free to do things. That's terrific. So I feel a little bit of that gold rush is happening, but I think traditional media is just waiting, to have that argument. The good news is that Trump is a hurricane and does different things every day that the press doesn't have enough time to kind of react to it. But that's a story that they're going to be going after, and I think they're taking very seriously. So something I'm personally concerned about.
I think the best is yet to come. I think more people will pay attention as the price goes up, right? They always tend to do that. I think also we're opening up more and more on-ramps. And the more rails there are and the more that it becomes practical in people's lives, I think they will start to embrace it, even in passive ways. You start to naturally just become more invested in something, even though, you might not study it, but hey, now maybe a company enters into the S&P in the future, it's already in the NASDAQ or it's in your ETF, whatever. And then you start to just pay attention to the stories a little bit more. So I think slowly but surely people will start to focus their attention a little bit more on, hey, maybe I need to own some Bitcoin. I need to learn more about it. But I do think unit bias works against us because people look at a Bitcoin and they probably see it like a car, right? Like you don't want to buy like a fraction of it or you can't. And that's the message we really need to convey is you can start with $5 of Bitcoin or $10 of Bitcoin. That was going to be TJ's message, is saying you could just buy $5 of Bitcoin every week, the amount that you would spend on a coffee or something, and you can start small and it can turn into a meaningful savings. I was telling Eleanor that I set my mom up with an account a few years ago and we just set her up on a little auto buy and she forgot. I said, set it and forget it. She forgot about it. And the other day we checked it and she's like, I have how much in there? And it's just like a little extra nest egg for her. And it makes me so happy. So I think the more access that we offer people, the more that they can say, hey, not only is this approachable, but I feel like I can do it because it's maybe not too technical, or I don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, or, every outlet isn't speaking negatively about it.
Everyone here, if you're here for treasuries, you're thinking about these large financial plays. Obviously, it's so important for the $5 for Bitcoin. And I just want to stress, we need each other in this conversation. I might not be the biggest treasury fan and want to do that. I'm always going to advocate for holding on to your own Bitcoin. But the reason why we need each other is because we are the top of the funnel. Every conversation that someone starts to orange pill, we're the ones who want to orange pill people more. We're the ones who want to go out there and annoy people during their Thanksgiving dinner and slightly ruin it. But, hopefully maybe your one uncle will take notice, right? We're top of funnel for having them think about maybe your products. Maybe they don't want to hold their own custody and your product comes in, or it's in an industry that they understand. But I cannot stress enough how important it is for you all to understand the Bitcoin is a culture war that is happening against traditional media and against traditional finance. And it is a fun and scary one, but it is one that happens. So while you're all working in the financial markets, right, that has its traditional rules in place, and this is the new shiny thing you can add to it, right? There is a Bitcoin culture war happening. And how you support that is, I believe, going to impact the largest on your success. You all have marketing dollars. What are you going to spend it on, right? You're going to just buy ads here or not? There are some people who are fighting on the Bitcoin side. We're seeing it now as they have, Bitcoin, not just influencers, but they have people who understand the space and can help translate that space to other folks. That might be something smart that your company's, look into doing. What does make your company different, and what type of advocate in the Bitcoin world would best represent that and bring that in for trying to get some, not only your marketing, but help you understand what's happening in this culture war. You can't just jump into it and be like, if you look at it just on numbers and it's like, well, this is how much it goes up and this is the financial market, you're going to be lost, right? You don't show up to Paris and don't speak French, right? They hate that. So once again, you need to understand the language and the world that you're in. And once again, that's why at Pubkey, you can always come, and we're looking to make media on this topic as well. So if you would like to sponsor it, we'd love to talk to you after this, because we think some of the best content could be made at your little neighborhood pub that's a couple streets, blocks down from Wall Street. So that's a shitty plug, but I didn't get an advertising spot here, so I used it now.
You want to open it up to some questions?
I think that's a great idea. Anyone have any questions not for TJ?
You hear me? Okay. I'll put on my tinfoil hat for a moment, but do you think there'll be an active push by TradFi or traditional powers to negatively put Bitcoin in a negative light through centralized media sources? Or is that out there?
I don't. I think we have crossed the event horizon. I think it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. Now, too many people with a legitimate stake in the mainstream in the TradFi world own Bitcoin. I don't think that they're going to go against something that Larry Fink owns, that administrations are now starting to embrace, that the SEC is now for, the CFTC. I don't know. I don't see us rewinding time and suddenly having an administration that is hostile toward it, but that's just me.
I would agree with that.
I would highly disagree with that. I don't trust any mainstream media. And for someone who worked in it, let me tell you, when I was at Vice in 2012, we were like, Bitcoin, the next money or the best way to buy internet drugs. And then when I was at Bitcoin Magazine in 2021, Vice reported, they're not wearing masks at the Bitcoin conference. Bitcoin's bad, right? So and in between that time, they went a little bit more mainstream and a little tinfoil hatty. But the truth is, Bitcoin's always going to have enemies. Bitcoin itself is trying to, it wasn't created to be a tag-along asset to other public companies. Bitcoin was created to take down Wall Street and to take down the banks and take down those other things. I'm really happy you're here all adopting it. It's a smart thing to do financially, right? But there's always going to be enemies to Bitcoin, and mainstream media is going to be the best outlet to go against it. And more importantly, there'll be people who want to advertise a different world. The fact that if you look at the top 3 media outlets that have misreported on Bitcoin and have done a poor job, talk about the New York Times, Washington Post, and MSNBC, the irony that MSNBC, which was Microsoft and NBC, created in the 1990s to be tech forward and to talk about the future, has been the biggest, FUD creator for Bitcoin that was ever imagined, right? New York Times, which was at the ground floor of what was happening in Bitcoin, misreported on it from early dollars, right? And they still won't go. And the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos from Amazon, who might know something about electronic money and how to pay for e-com, is the 3rd worst outlet for media. So yes, I do believe you should always be skeptical of mainstream media. And that's why events like this, Ed, what do you had? 190,000 people that were watching this?
Yeah, peaked about that high.
190,000. Just so you know, that is more viewers than any show on MSNBC. Okay? Man, Rage Against the Machine, know your enemy, right? Like your enemy, in my opinion, is the mainstream press. And that's why we need to continue to do things like this. We need to continue to get content out there. We need to continue to get information out there. And you need to continue to talk to your friends because the press is never your friend.
I want to clarify based on what you just said. I don't think there's going to be pushback in the future to owning Bitcoin as an asset. I think where the pushback will be self-custody and privacy. That's where I think our battlefronts are, because I could see the government and future, centralized agencies wanting to make sure that they control these new rails as much as possible. But I do think it will be embedded in the traditional financial system as an asset. They're just obviously going to want to control and tax as much as they always have.
5 years from now, you're going to read the headline that says, people got rich off Bitcoin. It's not fair. Right? Like that's what's going to happen. That's the attack vector. It's going to be jealous people who didn't get in when they wanted to. And now it's so bad what happened here. And they're going to use the mainstream media to cram it down. Why we don't deserve our Bitcoin and why the government needs to, collect it, needs to be in a Coinbase account in order for you to do your taxes. So that's my fear. Bitcoin is inevitable. It's going to happen. But the mainstream media is going to use it to stoke up fear and hatred against Bitcoiners, with the government.
I got one more question here.
Kind of dark.
But first of all, I learned a valuable lesson today. I'm not as funny as I thought I was. Apparently. So 3 minutes. So you each get 1 minute. Accountability. Right? There's I saw this new website, proofofprice.com, right? And they're taking the price predictions off Twitter, logging them, putting them on a chart. And you have to be accountable for what you said. And we're going to see who was right, who was wrong. How do we do the same thing? What's the website? The Death of Bitcoin website? How many times it's been declared dead? It seems like mainstream media or any media or even you can just keep saying things and keep saying things. It's like it's going to rain, it's not going to rain. How do we implement accountability in all media? 1 minute each.
Vote with your eyes and ears and with your money. Put your attention to places of value, places that are accountable, and obviously they will follow because that's where the money and the eyeballs and the ears are.
They've been wrong. I think the best thing to do is honestly publicly ridicule them at all times. And I'm not joking, right? Like show that it's clown world and be like, wow, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about this. I understand a lot of suits are here and you have to be professional. I get that. That's why you have someone who can do the trolling for you. But listen, that's important because once again, if you just don't take them seriously, they lose all their power. So I think that's important accountability. And when they know that they're being laughed at, they might take things more seriously.
Well, I think the resounding no hands when I asked the question in the beginning about who gets their crypto news from mainstream media outlets was everything. And I've actually never seen the whole room completely unanimous before. So I think that gives you everything you need to know. Clearly there's a reason for that. And you guys are going to keep doing what you're doing because someone's clearly doing a bad job. So, accountability, keep doing what you're doing because you have places that you trust and places that you don't trust. So, keep doing what you're doing, keep showing them, who you trust and who you don't. That's what I would say.
And Ed and Tim, congratulations, and everyone else who worked on this. 3 months to put this together. No mainstream press, no nothing. I don't see Bloomberg here. I don't see Fox News here. You guys did this. This is more important than anything else. So congratulations on proving everyone wrong.
Yeah, we're doing another one on Friday.
Yeah, and in general, just we as consumers, we're accountable, right? There's so much information out there now. You have to do your research. You have to look around. You have to see, maybe is there another side that I haven't explored? Have I, been watching things that are maybe a little bit one-sided? I think that when you straw man and steel man arguments and just try to learn from the smartest people, you start to develop your own ability to articulate the message of Bitcoin and anything else really. And we are accountable now because there's so much out there in the digital landscape, so much media out there, and it serves us for the good, but it also provides us with a saturated field where we have to do a lot more work.
Awesome. Eleanor Terrett, Natalie Brunell, Mike Germano, thank you very much. We're going to do a brief video from one of our great sponsors, and then we'll be back with the final session with TJ Miller.
We love you, TJ.
See y'all at Pubkey.
Bitcoin custody is evolving, and OnRamp leads this change with multi-institution custody, eliminating single points of failure. Instead of one institution or complex private keys, OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated, cold storage, multi-sig vault backed by 3 independent, institutional-grade custodians. No single custodian can move funds by themselves, providing an unprecedented level of security that traditional custody solutions simply can't match. Protected by a $100 million Lloyd's of London insurance policy, all transactions are fully auditable on-chain, never rehypothecated, and executed only at your explicit direction. This means complete transparency and control over your assets at all times. Beyond custody, OnRamp delivers comprehensive Bitcoin financial services, including lending, trading, inheritance planning, IRAs, and more. OnRamp functions as your private banking partner, coordinating key holder activity, removing technical burdens, and providing a personalized, trust-minimized experience tailored to your specific wealth preservation goals. Whether you're new to Bitcoin or an experienced holder, OnRamp's approach helps secure generational wealth with unmatched security and peace of mind. Visit onrampbitcoin.com today to learn more, sign up, or book a free consultation with their team of Bitcoin custody experts. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15. Join us at the Win in Las Vegas, February 23rd through the 26th, 2026 for Bitcoin for Corporations. Use code KOTZ when you grab your tickets at strategy.com, and we'll see you there. This episode is brought to you by Arch Lending, the premier provider of crypto-backed loans designed for both individual and institutional investors. At Arch, your digital assets work for you without selling them. Arch offers flexible loan options tailored to your needs. Backed by industry leaders like Morgan Creek Digital, Castle Island Ventures, and Galaxy Ventures, Arch Lending is setting a new standard in crypto-backed lending. Are you ready to unlock the potential of your crypto assets? Visit archlending.com to learn more and configure your loan today. Are you looking for comprehensive analytics on corporate Bitcoin adoption? Strategy Tracker delivers real-time insights into how companies are executing their Bitcoin strategies completely free. Monitor NAV premiums, cost basis performance, and track how corporate Bitcoin treasuries perform against the market. Upgrade to Premium for just $3.99 a month and unlock exclusive benefits like detailed market rankings, real-time trading volume analysis, and advanced performance metrics for corporations embracing Bitcoin. Apply code KOTZ at checkout for 100% off your first month of Premium. Strategy Tracker is your essential tool for measuring the effectiveness of corporate Bitcoin strategies. Visit strategytracker.com and gain the analytical edge in understanding the Bitcoin treasury phenomenon.